3, 2, 1.
I'm sorry, but that's how you have to do the countdown. 3, 2, 1.
No, then you got to point. It's 3, 2.
2. Okay. Welcome back to Shit That Goes On in Our Heads. Today we have Bizzle, and he's going to talk about his progression from being a bachelorette all the way back up to parenthood. I can't.
Not a bachelorette. A bachelor. Bachelorette is what you were before you met. You are my.
That's a good start to the episode, though.
Yeah,
oh my God.
love it.
You're an asshole, and I'm going to close my eyes
Take
and not
5.
look at you for.
Remember the countdown.
I'm not looking at you.
Okay.
Just count. 1, 2. Welcome back to Shit That Goes On in Our Heads, and today we have Bizzle, and he's going to talk about his progression of being a bachelor all the way to parenthood.
Yes, and for those that don't know, Bizzle is my life partner, my significant other.
Yeah, also do a little producing of the podcast.
And the producer.
And your best friend.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
best friend.
definitely best friends. Yep.
Oh, life.
BFFs.
Yeah. I kind of wanted, I wanted Bizzle to be a guest because I think, like him, we have a couple of our friends, and I'm sure there are other men out there that are afraid to embark on parenthood or even marrying somebody. And when I first met Bizzle, he was basically like the coolest guy ever. He was in a band.
She's being nice.
He was in a band. He wore tight dickies. He had pitch black hair. His ears were gauged out, and he worked in IT. And I was like, that's a real winner right there. I got to get my hands on that guy. But no, like we started off really well. Like, I think just naturally I would almost argue and say we're such close friends. And, you know, as every relationship goes, like, you start talking to the person that you're like, you know, I think this is my forever person. And the topic of children came up, and if we wanted to have kids, at that time, I'm also about 5 years older than Bizzle.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So at that time, you know, I'm 5 years older, wanting to have a child, possibly. And Bizzle was anti-kids. He wanted double income, no kids. He called it dinks.
Yep.
And that was one of our biggest struggles. And it took us quite some time to, well, I guess I'll hand it over to you. I don't know. Ultimately, he decided he wanted what I wanted. And how did that happen? First of all, why didn't you want children?
Well, let me first start with, as the producer, it is much easier to be away from the mic and off the mic than to be, you know, participating in the conversation. So that is an interesting change that I would say for the podcast. The other thing you forgot to mention is at the time when we first met, for whatever silly reason, I used to wear my keys on a keychain belt loop kind of thing. Like, you were like a wallet chain plus like the keys.
It was like janitor keys.
Yeah, janitor keys. And so she could hear me coming down the hall at the work where we worked together from like a mile off, because it would go jingle, 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 jingle with every step.
Yeah,
so.
once I knew he was in IT, I would unplug the printer, and I would tell my chef, because I was in the pastry world back in these days, and I would tell my chef, there's something wrong with the printer again. Eventually, he got wind that there was a specific person in IT that,
because they always said the wrong guy.
They did. Well, because we didn't know what his name was. So we would always ask for everybody else. And then finally he came down one day, and I remember you had just dyed your hair blonde, and I was like, oh, there's that. That's not happening.
The fantasy's over, folks.
Because it was like, you could definitely tell he did it at home, and it was like orange.
Oh yeah.
You know
it was a box dye.
He went natural like you, G-Rex. Yeah.
So we met when I was, you know, early 20s. Yeah, 21. And Dirty Skittles was mid 20s and
26.
Yeah, 26.
Right, Robert.
You know, at that time, at least me personally, kids weren't even a consideration, right? They wasn't, it was a thing that at that time I was actively avoiding doing, right?
He was practicing safe sex.
Yes. Different podcast. But, yeah. So, you know, we were together for a good long period of time. And then I guess actually what I would ask, and then I'll tell my side of it. But at some point, Dirty Skittles decided that we were going to have a kid, right? Not like we weren't like
right.
pregnant or anything, but like that was something that was like part of her future. And I could either be part of that future or, you know, that necessarily didn't work. So for a while we actually did split up because of that, you know, because I didn't think I was ready, or it was something I didn't see in my future or whatever. Ultimately, you know, I changed my mind and it's been incredibly fantastic, but I'm kind of curious, and then I'll say my side of it, but what changed for you as to like, you went from like, because we had talked about it for a long time, you know, we've been together now more than 15 years. And so I'm curious what changed for you, what prompted it. And then I'll share kind of my side.
Yeah. I feel like I'm hoping G-Rex is like, yes, to the story. For me, so I had kind of struggled with the idea myself my whole life. I wasn't one of those little girls that dreamt about her wedding or being a mom. I dreamt about like traveling the world, becoming an author one day, like things like that. And so at some point in my 20s, I would probably say like 23-ish, I remember thinking, man, am I going to do like this kid thing? Because my fear was I didn't want to have a child that would not contribute to society. I was like, I don't want somebody who's gonna, in my family there's a lot of drug abuse, alcoholism that they struggle with, and I'm like, is that genetic? Like, what are the chances that I'm gonna, you know, love a child that is gonna end up being a drug addict or an alcoholic or get into crime, or, you know, like I just feared the worst, and the risk it didn't make sense to me at that time. And I tried to think of the other side. Well, I could also have like an amazing person who like makes a discovery that changes the world, and, you know, things like that. But when it finally switched was actually when I met Bizzle in one of our conversations, when he said the double income, no kids comment. It lit a fire inside of me, because as a woman, I'd be damned if a man told me I would not be a mother one day. I was like, fuck you. If I want to be a mom, I'm going to be a mom. Like, you don't have a right to tell me what I can and cannot do with my own body. And then I knew, I wouldn't feel this way if I didn't want to have a child. Like, I was like, I want a kid to call me mom one day. I was like, this guy can go suck a dick. Like, you can go find somebody else, but, and yeah, we parted ways. So for me, that was what did it. I realized, no, I can do this and I want to do this. So you're either on board with me or you're not.
So I can see from like both of you guys' standpoint, but, you know, for me being a lesbian, I didn't want to have kids, but I love being around kids, right? I'm like everybody's favorite aunt. Number one, because I'm about as tall as most of the kids. But
London.
I love like hanging out with kids, right? Like, I'm the biggest kid you'll ever meet next to my wife. You know, I try to mentor and be like parent-like, but I could never be a parent. But just for my own personal reasons. One, I had a hysterectomy about 10 years ago. And two, you know, my dad was an alcoholic, and I didn't want to bring that in, right? I didn't want to have that element. So I'd much rather just like foster or mentor or be around kids, just so I can get that inner child that I have out.
I'd say Dirty Skittles mentioned the dinks thing, right? I had imagined and pictured my life just traveling, kind of no strings kind of stuff, right? And, you know, having a child means that you have to compromise on everything. And everything is really, at least for whatever period of time, I assume it's a very long time, because our son's only 5, but I assume, you know, 10, 15, 20, right? It's all based around their needs, and you have to give selflessly, right? And I don't think I was ready to do that. And And then on the other hand, I had a very similar experience, G-Rex. Like, you know, my childhood was good, but there were parts of it that I was worried or concerned I would bring to our son, I guess Nugget, we'll call him.
Little Nugget.
Would bring to his life that I didn't want to have, right? Like I talk to a lot of my friends that are either thinking or were thinking about having kids. And that's a real concern, right? Is that they had whatever it was, they didn't want to bring that into their children's lives, right? And I would guess that progressively every generation is better, right? You see the things your parents did that you don't want to replicate and so forth. And then you get better, but at the same time, you're also, at least I'm also super concerned about bringing those things in myself and not being capable of doing that. So ultimately, I guess the answer to what changed though for me was, you know, I really loved Dirty Skittles and the relationship that we had that I wasn't finding elsewhere, and having a kid seemed like totally great at that point. For whatever reason, something switched in my life and it felt like, you know, I think we together could do it and handle it and be successful and take the bumps as they come along the road or whatever. But it seemed attainable when in the past it had not been. I will say, you know, we could talk about some stories over the years, but it definitely for me ended up being the right choice. On the flip side, for lots of people, it's not the right choice, right? Adoption is a choice. Not having kids is a choice. All of them are great choices depending on each person's where they are and who they are and what's in their life.
A lot of our friends ask, or a lot of people who have children ask, so when, are you going to have another one? And Bizzle can attest to this. As soon as our little Nugget was born and I delivered and I looked up and I saw him, after I said what I wanted to say, because I had stress, like what is the first thing I'm going to say to my son when he's born? Not that he will remember, but for whatever reason, I was hyper focused on like, I have to have like something great to say. And after I said my thing, which I'm not going to, I probably will keep to myself. But after I said what I wanted to say to my son, the very first thing I said out loud to everybody else, I am never doing this again. Like, and they all looked, everybody says that. And I'm like, no, like my pregnancy was wonderful. Like I had anything scary happening. I mean, it was the best that it could be. I delivered where I wanted to deliver. We had an amazing staff, like all the nurses and doctors like there was nothing apart from just not ever wanting to. I thought labor was traumatic. Like there's people just staring at your bits with like huge lights, like it's not a production, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm like, don't look over here, stop snapping photos. And I remember like looking over, my mom was in our delivery room because my mom was a nurse. We delivered at the hospital she worked at, and she was just sipping coffee, and I just remember being like, I'm fucking straight working out here. My mom's fucking sipping coffee. I look over at my husband Bizzle, whose only job was to hold my leg, and the doctor's like, you look real pale, are you feeling okay? And he had to be
talking to me, not her. She was working hard. I was also, by the way, working incredibly hard holding this leg. It was my one job, and like, I was doing the best at it.
I need to step away and go to the bathroom. He like almost fainted. Then I'm like closing my eyes, bearing down, pushing, just literally being so traumatized by this experience. And then I look over to my right, and now I see Bizzle just sipping on some apple juice, like just had a fan on him, all the nurses paying him attention. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Like, get me out of here. And I couldn't back out of it. Like, I
mean, I think that the labor was really about me.
Yeah.
More than anything. It was, I know you were there as a supporting cast member.
I think why those things stood out to me was because I wanted to back out. I had come this far and I was scared. I was terrified. But damn, be it for me to change my mind. It's too late.
A little late.
Yeah. And I'm like, I want to be fucking with a fan and apple juice, just staring at the other person, just putting in the work. And I couldn't. But I mean,
I did almost pass out, which was somewhat embarrassing.
Finally,
since it's all family and friends in this room. I think I was just, I was just stressed, and I don't know what happened. I guess
like, wasn't breathing.
Yeah, I wasn't breathing. I was sympathy pain.
Sure. Sympathy pain. I come out of the bathroom when the contractions actually hit. And it's true for anybody who's listening, who's pregnant. I apologize. Anybody who's thinking of getting pregnant or having a baby, everything you read about contractions is absolutely true. There's one line I'll never forget that says, you know, it's the real contraction when you can't even talk. All you can do is breathe. And that was exactly what happened. I came out of the bathroom, couldn't even speak. I immediately, like, the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. And I remember asking Bizzle to come close because I was afraid I was going to pass out, like black out from the pain. And I needed to hold on to him. And he freaking looks over at me and he's like, gosh, is it really that bad? And I was like, you son of a bitch. And then here he is, fucking getting apple juice and a fan.
I mean, these are things you just don't know. Like, I will say, not as defense, but just sort of background. I never grew up around children or had any interaction with children or pregnant people. Like, really,
pregnant people,
right? Yeah. Like, people who are pregnant. So I never, so I didn't know what to expect, right? You only see what you see on TV, and TV is it glosses over the challenges, right? It's like 30 minutes and then the baby was born and it was really easy or whatever, the reason I said it hadn't really been around children was because another part of before, obviously we got pregnant, but deciding about having kids, I'd never been around them. So I had no comfort with them. So it didn't really feel like something I was comfortable with. So therefore it was something I didn't want to do. And then going back to the pregnancy side of things, right? My only experience, even through all the conversations and stuff that we'd had with the doctor and stuff, is like whatever you saw on TV, 30 minutes, no problem. They make the epidural sound like it's going to take all the pain away. And so when she was in pain, like, that was not the expectation that was kind of set. The doctor's like, oh, we'll give her this epidural. She'll be great. She'll be, floating on a cloud. That I don't think. No,
well, there's something called walking epidural, which I don't know why that exists. They gave it to me. So the lady's like, yeah, we'll give it to you, but you'll still be able to get up and walk around. Not like the other one where it's like, you're kind of down. And I'm like, yeah, okay. That's like, why wouldn't I want that? Well, none of the pain went away. It only made me really sleepy. And I remember asking her, like, I don't understand like this. And she's like, well, yeah, I mean, it's just going to help you rest. It doesn't get rid of the pain. And I'm like, the fuck are we doing, lady? Why are we here? Give me the strong stuff, bud.
Give me the real goods.
Yeah.
So we had Nugget. I would say as a father, it's really interesting. My experience, and we can go kind of through a little bit of each of the year's journeys, but I would say it gets exponentially better every year. Year 0 to 1, you feel a little bit useless. Like, they don't need dad, right? Or Papa is what he calls me, but I didn't feel that needed, right? I tried to be interactive and things, but they're not speaking, they're not walking, they're not doing a lot. They're super dependent on mom, and mom is there for everything they need. So I'm just kind of, you're like a background character.
Drinking apple juice.
Drinking apple juice as a background charter.
And at that time, they're like eating, pooping, sleeping machines, right?
Pretty much it. Yeah, that's the whole deal. But, I changed diapers, help with bath time, all that fun stuff. But it was like, mom is who they need. So 0 to 1 was, I don't want to say it was demoralizing, but it definitely was tougher than I expected because you've got low sleep and you're not feeling the reward. I don't know, as a mom, if what your experience with 0 to 1 was, because
yeah.
I'm just saying from my side, I wonder if you felt like you got at least some of the, I don't know, reward is maybe the wrong word, but.
That's an interesting question. It's different because it's totally different. I immediately changed as soon as that baby was born. I mean, I technically changed as soon as I became pregnant because I was hyper aware and focused on external factors. I didn't want to get stressed. I didn't want to be around any, like, like the normal stuff. Like, I don't want anybody smoking around me. I don't want to eat certain kind of foods. Like, you do everything you can to have a very peaceful pregnancy. But as soon as he was born, immediately everything changed. My mindset changed. My body changed. My focus changed. And
sleep.
Even without sleep, I remember tricking myself mentally because you're running on empty, and it became very understandable how some moms snap because you don't have rest. And when your body is depleted of rest, you don't make sound decisions. But I recognized that I was getting too little sleep, and I tricked my brain, and I became kind of like super mom, where I was like, I'm going to crack this code. Like, I am going to do everything I can to make his upbringing as peaceful as possible. And so I even got to the point where I could tell he was going to wake up before he woke up. And I would wake up, I could have a bottle ready, diaper changed, re-swaddled before he even opened his eyes. And the bottle was in his mouth as he was getting ready to ask for the milk. And I remember thinking, oh, if I was playing a video game right now, this would be a new level unlocked. And like, that was the mental game, was like, new achievement. I, put him down and he didn't wake up. Ding. Like, I got his leg in his onesie and didn't break it. Ding. Like, it was like, that was how I had to keep going, was so that was my reward, essentially, was like a new level unlocked, a new achievement.
I think there's also, maybe if you want to talk about it, I don't know, we can cut it out, but there's a whole another level of stress that I think was societal, that you had to struggle through, because society, and as someone who's not, it'll make sense when I explain it, but as someone on the outside, what I saw was every class we did, every discussion, the doctor, everybody else was like, you got to breastfeed. It's like this, it's this huge deal. They bring it up in every conversation, all this stuff. Right. And so you like go into, okay, I'm going to have this baby. And then,
there's an expectation. And I think a lot of moms or soon to be moms will resonate with this, was that there's an expectation that you as a mother, your body is meant to change and is meant to provide milk, right? Like, that's natural. That's just what's supposed to happen. And it's going to make all of what the doctors and other people are saying, like, you're going to be like, got it. I'm doing everything you're asking me to do. And for me specifically, in the beginning, it was incredibly difficult because our little nugget, there was like a whole latching issue. It's a mental thing where I'm like, he just hates me, right? Like, he's not latching and he hates me and I need him to latch. Otherwise my body is not going to naturally produce this milk. I struggled with breastfeeding and I tried everything, even to the point where actually, Bizzle, I remember you were making me lactation cookies and crackers and breads. And like, I mean, he became like friggin' Martha Stewart of lactation. And he was like, I'm going to get that milk out. And
like I'm an oil miner in the 1920s.
Yeah. And it was very little. I produced very little. And I remember and then also like, I didn't quite enjoy it, to be honest, which might be a little controversial for anybody who believes breastfeeding is the way to go. I didn't enjoy it. I didn't like the way it made me feel. I hated that when I was doing it, your body actually produces that, I don't know what enzyme, whatever it's called, that makes you fall asleep. And
serotonin? Is that what it is? No.
I don't know.
Tryptophan.
Your body produces the thing that makes you tired. So I'm struggling with a baby that's not latching. My body's not producing milk, and I just want to go to bed. Like, it was like everything about it was friggin' horrible. Yeah.
I wish they would have, my only feedback, I guess, and it's maybe not my place, but I just wish they'd be a bit more not binary in your option, right? Yeah. It's not like you have to do this, right? There are reasons and options, and they should explain all that, because they put so much pressure for the right reasons, right? I'm sure that like it's the best thing or whatever, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to work. And then the amount of pressure and stress they put on you, I felt like made it worse, because now you've with anything I've ever done, if I'm just going for it, fine. If I add that mental pressure of it has to be done and people are watching me and judging me, it actually makes it significantly harder to do the thing, whatever that thing is.
Yeah, I tried everything and it just didn't work. And I mean, now being on this side, I think it's still kind of a tender spot, just because your body's supposed to do something and you almost feel like you're failing. Like, you're like, oh, I failed. Like, I can't naturally just do this thing.
Yeah.
So I have a question for both of you. When little Nugget was born, did it bring the two of you closer, or were you like snappy with each other? Or
my view is it brought us closer. I think there's also other factors. We were moving to Georgia from Florida, so we literally Charlene had the baby. We had the baby, whatever, and then moved to Georgia within like 10 days, right?
No, it was 4 days later.
Okay, 4 days. Sorry. So we moved within 4 days. So in addition to having this baby, we also moved out of state, away from our family and stuff. So I would say, I don't want to say we were isolated because we had, friends and stuff up there, but that also made sure we had to be a stronger family unit. That was my take. I will say, as the sleep deprivation, let's call it, or just sleep deprivation set in, it definitely made us snippier with each other, but not like, I wouldn't say it was like terrible. I just think is, when you're really tired, I'm sure T-Rex, you've been super tired. I've seen you in Vegas. It's not
but that's
easy.
when she's tired and she's lost money.
True.
And there's been alcohol involved.
Always alcohol involved. Always.
So I would say from my perspective, closer, but also that I will say there's a real, they always say get 8 hours of sleep or whatever. For me, that's huge. I am a zombie if I get 6, basically dead if I get 4. I know Dirty Skittles did a lot of the, the nighttime stuff. I would wake up, but once we moved to the bottle, I think I was able to contribute more. But for the first 3 or 6 months, I didn't have a lot to necessarily give because of the situation.
Yeah, but even though you were always there, like, you know what I mean? Like, even if he wasn't physically doing the action, he was either awake, whether or not he wanted to be, or he was there. He was present. He was kind of like your sous chef in the kitchen. Like, he was like, okay, what do you need? Do I got to hold the water cup for you? Like, what's going on? Yeah, I don't know. I don't think.
I could see how it would go either way, though.
Yeah,
like, it's definitely like anything else is definitely a coin toss because it can make you real snippy, real easy, or it can bring you closer. And I think
he was like he was hyper concerned about my mental health. I don't know. Was I like showing signs? I think he thought like, what if she becomes depressed? Or yeah, you were very
There's
concerned.
a real challenge between you being frazzled and your just natural curly hair. Like there's a big, it's kind of that's another coin toss, right? Like is she gonna murder me right now? Or is she just waking up and didn't straighten her hair? I don't know.
Is that why you were worried? You were like, she's gonna snap and come for me.
Well, because postpartum is like a huge thing too, right? Like
he was super concerned.
Well, they tell you about that a lot, right?
Yeah.
They mention
he was like,
it.
are you feeling like this, that? And I'm like, what is happening? It was just surprising. I appreciated it. It was just surprising. I would have never guessed that would happen.
I think that switching from 0 to 1, I think the thing that had the biggest impact, obviously once Nugget was born was, so I had the opportunity to go take on a job that required 100% travel when he was about 1. He was basically about 1. In fact, I think I started around October, so he would have been just 1.
Yeah, just turning.
And but the thing was I would leave Sunday after he went to bed and come back either Thursday or Friday night every week. That was, I think for me, was sort of a mixed bag. It was a really good experience. I had a lot of, I grew a lot from a professional sense, but how I also grew or changed was I realized how much I really wanted to be in his life all the time.
Yeah.
Right. I would, Dirty Skittles would send me videos of like him starting to walk or these other things. And, when you miss some of those milestones, it can be fairly intense emotionally, right? Because you're trying to do what you think is best. I also have a renewed respect for folks that do have travel jobs because they're trying to make ends meet. It's not just like you can have the job fairy come and have this perfect job that's remote and perfect and you can do all the things you want to do, start whenever you want, right? People have jobs, even non-travel jobs, where you have to be a set schedule, right? And you're going to miss things in life. Yeah. So that was really, really tough emotionally. This is going to sound, I understand, terrible, but what kind of worked out for me, what I would call lucky was, so about the 1 year mark of that job was when COVID happened, and COVID was horrible for millions of reasons. But the one thing that I look back on was I had the opportunity to take a layoff package and then start a job that was in Orlando, which is where our family's at. For me, that just allowed me to be remote all the time. So I had the opportunity to be with my family, and we were also closer to our parents. So the grandparents got to see him, every week and all this stuff. So I guess what I'm saying there, though, is from 1 to 2, I didn't get to see him nearly as much as I want. And I really empathize with other people that have, whatever reason, a similar situation. We got lucky because after that, I guess that like changed my mindset, right? To where I wanted to spend as much time as possible doing all those things, kind of, you never can, but making up for the time you missed, right? There's just a real sense of like, I missed something, but I don't want to have that happen again. So
yeah, and I was already working remote. So when he took the layoff package, it was right around the time that the daycares closed for COVID. Mm-hmm. So you essentially became the sole provider.
Oh, that was really interesting. I forgot about that. So between when I got laid off and my next job was maybe a month and a half, right? So I got extremely lucky. I had some really incredible mentors and friends that like referred me. The opening just happened to work out in the industry, all that stuff. So I got incredibly lucky. But for that month and a half, right, daycare was closed. I had no income. So I basically became, to some degree, daycare. But I think it's more than that, right? I wasn't just daycare, but that was actually kind of another nice thing to, obviously you're not making up for that time, but it was nice to spend all day, every day with him. And now at that point, he started walking, and he was talking a little bit, and, really was able to communicate. So this is kind of that exponential year by year growth, where now he was able to do funny stuff and like express what he wanted and things. So that was like significantly better for me, at least.
It worked out, I guess, then timing wise, everything just worked out the way it was supposed to.
And during that time, Dirty Skittles, I remember how your mood changed too, because I remember when Bizzle was traveling, and then when that stopped, how your whole mindset changed, right? Your whole you became a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more funny. You could tell that your stress level had gone from like 100 to like 40.
Yeah. And
I think that's really important to remember, right? Because we're in the height of COVID. The entire world was exploding. It was a crazy, crazy time. And, between then and now, like the stories you guys tell me about Nugget, I love them. Okay. Because I'm not a parent, but I can see them happening. And it makes me happy because I know he's thriving and he's in a really healthy environment, because the two of you make amazing parents. And if nobody's ever told you that before, you guys do a really good job of it. You actually make it look easy. And, that's the age that he's at now. He's, finding his own way. He's a little bit of a parrot. Like, don't say fuck in front of him, because he's going to go to school and be like, fuck, fuck, fuck,
What
fuck.
the fuck is the phrase where I don't know.
He heard WTF somewhere, and
that's all he can say.
But he doesn't know what the F part of it is.
And then he'll say, well, why can't I say it? We're like, because it's a naughty word. But what does fuck mean? But what does fuck mean? We're like, just stop saying it.
You can't just keep. Well, what is fuck? Fuck? What is fuck? I don't know. Why is fuck bad?
Like,
and you're like, no, I can't even explain what the word means to you,
because that's bad. It's like,
a 5-year-old just can't.
I know, but then he's like, so then he'll say, what the fluck? And you're like, bro.
You can't just make new words up, but they're the same.
I didn't say fuck. I said fluck. And we're like, stop.
Now you said it again. You said both. Yes. I do want, real quick, I want to go rewind really quick, just to one last thing on the 0 to 1 while I was, or 1 to whatever it was, 1 to 2 I was traveling. I was answering the question about me, but I do think it's important to point out that like through all that time, Dirty Skittles was single parenting basically, right? That during the week I was completely out of town. I'm thousands of miles away. And so, she's doing all the pickup, drop off, food, cooking, cleaning, all while maintaining a job. Like, so there's a lot to be commended there. Like, thanks. That allowed me to go pursue this job and have my growth. But I think like it's really important to acknowledge the sacrifice that happened even without kids. Having a spouse that travels a lot is very hard. Throw in a 1 or a 2-year-old. I don't know how you did it, but I appreciate it.
I honestly, I don't know. I think the best advice we got was very early on. One of my friends who had, I think at that point, just had her second child, said, you need to get him on a schedule, a routine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but he's like 3 months old. And she's like, doesn't matter. Get him on a routine. And I thought, how odd. But I, was like, well, let's just give it a shot. Fuck it. And so at 3 months old is
that's where he gets it right there.
Yeah. Fuck it. What the fuck? I said fluck it for record. But yeah, so like that was when it started at 3 months old. He had a set time that I would take him upstairs. Or actually it would start with bath time. Then it was upstairs. I would put on classical music. I had like his little Einstein play things that, they have for little babies, and I'd let him play. We would read a book, and he'd have his bottle, his diaper change, swaddle, to bed. Even if he wasn't sleeping, I would put him to bed. And that schedule started at 3 months old. So when Bizzle was traveling for work, I had a routine, and it was more, I think it was more so for me more than for him. I had a routine. I knew exactly what time it was, what to do, and it left me a little bit of time for myself where I could take a shower. And he was at that point still sleeping in like a bassinet in our room. So I literally would push the bassinet into the bathroom. I would take a shower. We had 2 dogs who would bark for anything. So if they barked, they would bark when he cried. So like, I mean, you're multitasking, but I think that's probably a skill that women and moms develop very early on. Like you learn how to multitask, and you adapt, and you become whatever is needed. And I never really resented you for traveling. I just did what was necessary, and that was it. Like there was never a question.
So is that where you developed like your spidey sense?
Yeah.
Because I'm going to go back to a story you told me about a month ago.
Oh, tell me. What was the story?
When little Nugget, you went to go look for him, and the lights were on downstairs, and you skipped into his room, and he's camped out on his bed with a box of tricks, and I think he had his Switch or something. Yeah. So, like, do you, as parents, do you guys like develop like a kind of like a spidey sense?
He wasn't supposed to have the Switch. That's the thing. He wasn't, right?
Or the tricks.
G-Rex. He wasn't supposed to have either in the room.
Tricks.
Yeah, it was like
he came over the baby gate. He crawled over the baby gate and went downstairs.
Yeah. And I had no idea how long he had. Like, it's very rattling, right? As a parent, you wake up, you see something out of the ordinary, and you immediately go to, where's my child, right? And I could tell, okay, the gate is closed. So I'm computing everything. I'm like, gate is closed. It's still locked, but there is his like Pottery Barn chair propped up on the other side. So did he climb over? But I'm like, we have a house alarm. I didn't hear the alarm. Where is he? And for whatever reason, I'm like, I think I see his light on his room. Went in there, and he had the whole cereal container of tricks.
This is like the family size box too.
Sitting Indian style in his bed, just playing his Switch. And I was like, okay, he's safe, but like, how long has he been here like this?
How did he get back over the gate though? That's the question. Asked. Like, I see how he got out.
Exactly. He said he just climbed.
My thought is, like, did he like huck the box of tricks over the gate and the Switch and then climb over?
He probably
must have.
Or like, I don't know. I don't know how he did it, but he did it. And yeah, that's our little nugget.
Yeah. But I think every year there's new and different and exciting challenges like this one. Now he's old enough where we don't have the gate. So we had the gate because we had stairs.
Right.
Right. And we were concerned that he was going to
fall down the stairs
and hurt himself. So now though, he's old enough where we don't have that concern. Now my concern is if he knows how to unlock the door. So now he's going to unlock the door and go out. I don't know. He's never done anything like that, but I'm like a hypochondriac for things that could go wrong with him. That's the only thing that I think is challenging for me right now. Like I mentioned, every year is getting better and better. He's 5 now. It's probably the best year so far. He's, you can see his full personalities come through and the things that he loves and is passionate about and just who he is. But my brain, as soon as I'm not like directly with him, is like, okay, how is he going to get in trouble or how is he going to hurt himself?
Yeah.
Because he's very injury prone too.
What are we going to do?
But, just going back to what I was saying, I think you guys make amazing parents. You really do. Like, you guys give it your all.
Yeah.
You both work full time. You know, both have very stressful. Well, one of us has very stressful jobs. The other one, we're not so sure.
We don't know what he does.
Nobody knows. Dirty Skittles has said for years she has no clue what I do. She's even been to presentations I've given. But
you know what? In my defense, and if we can get like a witness on, in my defense, there was 3 of us watching your presentation, and while it was captivating and fascinating for the people that were there to learn about whatever it was you were presenting, we all 3 walked away, and I'm like, so does anybody know what he does? And they were all like, nope. I was like,
clearly
okay.
Not impactful. That's not.
I'm like, he could basically work for the CIA, and I would have no idea what he does.
Just for the record, I don't work for the CIA.
Thank God, because there's certain things on this podcast we can't say.
I can't give away all the secrets. But yeah, it's been really exciting. I look forward to other stuff. I have a lot of friends that have the full gamut, right? We have friends that have brand new babies. We have some that are thinking about even getting married and taking those next steps. We've got some that are literally their kids are going to college. I was just catching up with a good friend of mine that we all used to work with. He was telling me about his 2 kids, and like the youngest is now going to college and stuff. And it's really like all of those steps are so exciting. And, you know, I'm really looking forward to each and every year, especially like if he gets into music or sports or whatever, like that'll be really exciting. Cause now he's very much what we do. Like today we went to a Lego conference or convention, sorry, not a conference, a Lego convention.
We just talk about Legos. We don't really see that.
Don't really play with them. Just talk about
Lego
them,
presentations. No, so you got to see all these like different buildings and things that people had created and stuff. And so, yeah, I'm just really excited about that. Like once he starts doing his own activities outside of the house, you know, like whether that's video games or music, whatever, that's pretty exciting for me.
Yeah, so that's what you're looking forward to. Awesome. Well, I don't know if I have any more questions. Do you have any questions, G-Rex?
So, like, for me, I'm really happy that you decided to, you know, go on with the journey and have your son, because the world needs more good kids, more well-rounded. And you guys are very well-rounded parents, and I'm super excited to see what the future brings. And I think that the advice that you guys gave will help other parents that are kind of thinking about, you know, what's the next move? Is it the right thing? I will say that if having your own kids is not the right thing, become a foster parent, adopt, be a mentor. There are tons of kids out there that just need a little love, need a little guidance, and just be good people.
It's okay to be not okay. Just make sure you're talking to someone.